August 30th, 1973. It's a Thursday night in Colorado Springs, and the last week of summer is winding down. The air is still warm, but it's got that hint of autumn creeping in. People are out late, grabbing food, meeting friends, just enjoying the evening. But for 21-year-old Brenda Pierce, this night would be her last. By 10:22 p.m., she would be lying on South Prospect Street, fatally stabbed. No one was ever arrested. No one has ever been named publicly as her killer. And 50 years later, her murder is still a mystery. Brenda wasn't famous. She wasn't a public figure. She was just like anyone else. Someone living her life, probably with plans for the weekend, dreams for the future, and no reason to think her life was about to be violently taken. Colorado Springs in 1973 was a city of contrasts. On one hand, it had postcard beauty, Pikes Peak in the background, the Air Force Academy nearby, and a reputation as a growing hub for military families. On the other hand, like any city, it had its crime, its nightlife, and its share of places where you wouldn't want to be caught alone after dark. South Prospect Street sat somewhere in between, not the most dangerous part of town, but far from immune to trouble. We don't have a detailed timeline of Brenda's evening, and that's one of the frustrating things about this case. The records that survive are sparse, more like bullet points than a story. We know she ended up on South Prospect. We know she was attacked and stabbed. We know the police responded quickly, and that's it. Now you might think, okay, but stabbing is loud, it's messy, surely someone must have seen something. But here's the thing. Back in 1973, even on a busier street, there were no security cameras, no Ring doorbells, no street surveillance. If no one happened to be looking at the right place at the right time, the attack could happen and be over in seconds. And if the killer had a car nearby, they could be gone before anyone realized what happened. Let's break down the possibilities. The first big theory is that Brenda was killed by a stranger. Maybe she crossed paths with someone who was already looking for trouble, someone carrying a knife, someone desperate, angry, or mentally unstable. Stranger attacks are terrifying because they're random. They can happen to anyone, anywhere. If this was the case, then it's possible the killer wasn't even from Colorado Springs. They could have been passing through, committed the murder, and vanished from the city that same night. That would make identifying them almost impossible back in 1973. No fingerprints on file, no suspect in the area, case closed, at least until technology caught up. The second theory is that Brenda knew her killer. This is the theory that fits the statistics. Stabbings are often crimes of passion, emotional, up-close, personal. It could have been someone she knew casually, or even someone she trusted. An argument could have escalated, or maybe there was a history we don't know about. If this person lived locally and kept quiet, it would have been incredibly difficult for police to pin it on them without hard evidence. Remember, this was the pre-DNA era. They couldn't take a swab from a suspect's shirt and match it to evidence from the scene. If the knife was never found, the trail could have gone cold within days. The third theory, more speculative, is that Brenda's death could have been connected to other unsolved stabbings from the 1970s in the Colorado Springs area. At the time, different police departments didn't always compare notes unless something very obvious tied cases together. Serial offenders often went unnoticed for years because crimes were treated as isolated incidents. If there was someone targeting women in that region back then, Brenda might not have been the only victim. But there's never been an official statement linking her case to others, so for now, it remains in the what-if category. Something else to keep in mind. Cases from the 70s didn't get the kind of wall-to-wall media coverage we see now, especially if the victim wasn't wealthy, politically connected, or from a high-profile family. For Brenda, there's no archive of front-page headlines, no multi-page investigative spreads in the paper. No televised press conferences that we can go back and analyze. Instead, all we have today is a short cold case summary in the Colorado Springs Police Department's files. That's it. And that lack of public attention matters. When a case doesn't get covered heavily, tips dry up faster. Witnesses forget what they saw or they assume it wasn't important. People move away, memories fade, and over time the victim's name slips out of the public's mind entirely. But here's the thing. This case could still be solved. The evidence that was preserved in 1973 is still there. It's possible that the killer left behind something, a fingerprint, a hair, even the tiniest drop of blood, that wasn't testable at the time but could be tested now. Cold case units across the country have been solving decades-old murders with exactly that kind of evidence. The challenge is that cold case work is slow and resources are limited. Departments have to decide which cases to prioritize. Sometimes they focus on the ones with the most leads or the highest chance of solving. And that means cases like Brenda's, where so little is known, can end up waiting years between reviews. Then there's the human side. In almost every cold case, there's someone out there who knows something. Maybe they were told in confidence. Maybe they saw something that didn't seem important at the time. Or maybe they've been protecting someone for decades. If that person is still alive, they've been carrying that secret for half a century. That's a heavy burden, and the truth is most secrets don't stay buried forever. We also have to consider the psychology of the killer. If it was a stranger, maybe they struck again somewhere else, eventually getting caught for a different crime. If it was someone she knew, maybe they lived an entire life in the same city, walking past people who never knew what they'd done. Either way, they've had to live with it, unless they truly felt no remorse. And there are people like that out there. When you zoom out and look at it, Brenda's case is a haunting example of how quickly a life can disappear from the public record. It's not just that her killer got away, it's that the story of her life has been almost completely erased except for that one violent moment. Without attention, without pressure, cases like hers can drift into obscurity. But the fact that we're talking about her now matters. Every time her name is spoken, every time her case is brought up, there's a chance it reaches someone who knows something. And all it takes is one tip, one piece of evidence, one confession to break a case wide open. Until that happens, the question will hang in the air like it has since 1973. Who killed Brenda Pierce? Was it a stranger passing through, someone she trusted? Or a predator who left more victims in their wake? The answers are out there. The truth is out there. The only question is, when will it finally come to light?